All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. I'm Jean Cook, Chair of the Mississippi Charter School Authorizer Board. This is a regularly scheduled meeting of the MCSAB, which is being held today, Monday, October 9th, 2023 at 1 p.m. The notice of this meeting, which included the date, time, place, and purpose of the meeting, and identified the virtual attendance available to the public has been posted. An audio recording is being made of this meeting, and minutes of this meeting will be recorded. This meeting is being called to order at 1:02 p.m. on Monday, October 9th, 2023. We'll move on to the establishment of a quorum. As I call the names of the board members, please state the location of your presence for the meeting. I'm Jean Cook, I'm present in the boardroom. Lee Durrett.
President, People of the city.
Thank you. Don Hinton.
President, County of the city.
Thank you. Kimberly Rena.
Present in the boardroom.
Thank you. Candace Robbins.
Present in the boardroom.
Thank you. Marcy Scoggins.
Present in the boardroom.
And Jennifer Whittier.
Present in the boardroom.
And thank you. A quorum is present for conducting the meeting. We'll move on to the pledge, and Ms. Rena will lead us on the pledge. And then
Everyone stand. Salute. Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
please remain standing for the invocation. Ms. Scoggins.
Father God, we just thank you. We thank you for a day and another opportunity to help you more and serve you better. Lord, we thank you for these schools. We thank you for the administrators that lead. We thank you for the children they serve and for their families too, Lord. I pray that you be with us during this meeting, lead, guide, and direct us to make decisions that are best for those children. Lord, in your son's name we pray.
Amen. Thank you. The mission of the Mississippi Charter School Authorizer Board is to authorize high-quality charter schools, particularly schools designed to expand opportunities for underserved students. All right, so I'll move on to the adoption of the agenda. I will entertain a motion for approval of today's agenda, and please identify yourself for the record.
Council Candace Robbins.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second, Kimberly Rena.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay. Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Next, we'll move on to the approval of the minutes from September 25th. You received a copy of the September 25th, 2023 meeting minutes, and I'll entertain a motion for approval. Please identify yourself.
Jennifer Whittier,
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second, Candace Robbins.
Thank you. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Right, the motion carries. The chair report, I don't have a report, so we'll move on to the executive director's report.
Did you want to mention anything about this?
Yes, and you all, I think, received information from our secretary about accountability scores this year, and, overall in the state, a lot of schools and districts went out, but unfortunately, the scores are not as likely to be for the charter schools across the board. So I just want to make sure you saw that, and, if you want further information, you can, there's a report card online, this is report card, and you can, in a kind of user-friendly way, drill down into efficiency and other, in all the indicators that are behind that grade. So I encourage you to do that, just to get a more complete picture, and the framework will provide maybe about to say that a more complete picture of other aspects as well. Yeah. That's thank you.
All right, well, welcome to our guests. We have a few back there at your How are y'all over here? It's good to see you. So welcome to everybody. As always, I'll draw your attention to the newsletter that's in your packet, and then in particular the presentation that's also in your packet materials. The presentation that we did for the Society for Research and Educational Excellence in DC was really well received. It was one of the first days of the conference, and it was late in the afternoon, and I was kind of afraid that a lot of people wouldn't show up because, day one and late in the afternoon, all those other things, to deter people. But we had a good group, and they were really interested in in what we had to say and what we had to share with them. They asked great questions, and some people stayed after, and in fact, two of our attendees went to dinner with us. They were that interested in what we were doing on that research, so it was really good. Enjoyed doing that. Last week I had a great meeting with Embark. They have engaged with some consultants to do some work on additional resources to support interested applicants. And one of the things that they're going to do is some videos. So folks can do that on their own time. They can go and look at it. What does governance look like? What does the charter board expect about the governance of leadership at a charter school? How does that look? They're going to use a lot of our resources, which is great. And then they'll create some of their own as well. And so that was really, really good meeting. Last about an hour or so. So that was great. Jean mentioned that we are getting ready, and that we have already jumped on that this morning. We started working on the framework reports. It's that time. It's that time of year. We are missing a little bit of data from the department, a couple of like gap data that hasn't been quite released yet. Maybe net membership and a couple other points, but we're full steam ahead. We are going to work on financials first, and we finished up a couple of schools this morning. We have all the audits in, with the exception of one that we have not received as of earlier this year. Which one is that? So all good there, and we will, complete those as soon as we can. We won't meet our statutory deadline. We rarely do, because that data comes in past the statutory deadline. You can't do your frameworks until after you get all that data from the department. So that is one of the technical assistance requests that we'll make to the legislature again this year, and see if we can get some help on that, because it's tricky. If you don't get data until the 28th, you cannot get in and disaggregate all that data by the September 30th, which is when it's due. So we'll work on that. We have put a lot of time and a lot of effort into all of those processes and policies that you see under new business for consideration today. Amy and Jordan and I all have worked on those really diligently over the past few months, and nose to the grindstone last week or so to get all those ready so they can go out for APA and have time for public comment, and then get those back and those out at the appropriate time. So, I think that's it for me. It's only been a couple of weeks since I've seen you guys, so I don't have a little lot to report.
Great, thank you. No questions? Any board members? No. Okay. So we don't have a financial report, and I don't know if we have any committee reports. I don't have anything, so, okay. And we do have a request for public comment, so we're going to move on to our new business items, and you'll see a number of them are involved APA, and Dr. Commentary, I'm going to tee up any of these to,
I think what I'll do is just talk about that when we get to the timeline. So both item A and item B are going to be reflective of the new school application for existing operators or for new operators. So those are two different documents, and what we'll do is we'll pull out the old one that was in the APA, the administrative bulletin, and then we will put these out for public comment. They look very similar to last year, with the exception of a couple of things I'll mention when we get to see.
okay. All right. Okay, so we're going to vote on these separately. So the first one is item A is to consider approval beginning the Administrative Procedures Act to amend board policy Title 10, Part 420, call for quality schools guidance and application process for new operators. So I'll entertain a motion to begin the EPA process to amend this board policy. Okay, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Thank you. Any discussion?
Did you want to say anything about that? I talked about the section in the timeline
I mean, I should talk about it, sure. We had in the APA previously, our Part 402, sorry, I'm too technical with this, my life for a long time, but we had Part 402 that was the old cosmopolitan schools from like the 2013s. And so what we did was we took the part that we've been using, we had a new operators one and an existing operators one, and we did some work on those, and then we also pulled out some of those ones that we had been using, the timeline we pulled out, and the letter of intent, and so put those in separate parts, so that hopefully we will we'll try to change those at all unless we have to make substantive changes. We put out a timeline so that we can change that every year and so that it's easier to file that with the Secretary of State's office. Because we file each of these, we have to file the whole thing every time. Not a penny.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so it's really just pulling up the timeline for changes every year, and then we set an issue, and these can just endure as they are.
Right.
Okay.
Now, I will say this, after we finish the work with NACSA on the leaders in action or the application themselves, there might be some additional tweaks to move forward, but not significant and not totally substantive. Right now, we pulled out minor things like Navy reference, so.
Okay. All right. All those in favor?
I think I'm just saying.
Oh, did I have a second? Oh, no, Kimberly, you second. Yeah. Okay, good. Oh, second, we discussed it. Okay. So that's all those in favor? Okay. Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries. All right, now item B, similar, except this is for the existing operators. Okay, so is to consider approval beginning the APA process to establish board policy Title 10, Part 421, call for quality schools guidance and application process for existing operators. I'll entertain a motion to begin the APA process to establish this board policy.
So moved, Jennifer.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second, versus
Okay. Thank you. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. All right, item C is to consider approval beginning the APA process to establish board policy Title 10, Part 422, call for quality schools guidance and application process timeline for new and existing operators.
Part 422.
I did, that's what I read.
Is it 421?
I just did 421.
Okay.
420, 421, no, 432.
Yes.
Let's
This
see.
says 421 on the timeline.
Okay.
You have whole timeline.
That old timeline in here? Okay, so there's nothing changed in the section, it's just the.
Just the number.
Okay, all right, I just want to make sure we're on the right thing here, so.
Is this the one you want to talk about timelines specifically?
This
Okay.
is, yes,
All right.
this is what I wanted to talk about, so,
That is the right one.
it's not, it's got the wrong stuff, wrong information here, right? That's what I'm saying.
Just the wrong part. Yeah.
Okay, we're cool.
So the motion, second, now we're in discussion.
Yeah,
Okay.
now we're good, just making sure
Yeah.
we're clear, so, all right, so this is the document that I really wanted to talk about in particular, because it does look a little different than it has in the past. If you look under the letter of intent and eligibility, that is almost word for word what it has always been, right? So we do a prospective applicant, informational webinar, we provide that for anybody who's interested. Then we issue the letter of intent, and anybody who's interested in putting forth an application completes that letter of intent. Then we go through the eligibility determination, determine whether or not they've submitted all the documents that they're supposed to. And then for people who are eligible and interested, then they have an opportunity to go through a little bit deeper dive into the application cycle in another webinar that we do for them. So then they go into stage one. If they decide that they want to take the, jump in the deep end and write the application and go down that road, they'll go into stage one, which is the completeness check. We'll have our deadline that looks very similar to what it always has. The initial completeness findings are distributed then, very similar. And then we have a 48-hour window, we call it a remedy window, and folks can go back into our platform and they can submit anything that they've missed. Maybe they missed an attachment for a financial piece or an attachment for board information or whatever that attachment might be. And then they have about 48 hours over the weekend basically to fix that, get it right back to us. And then we'll issue final findings on their letter of intent. Stage one. And then we go into stage two. This is where you'll see some real significant differences. Since I've been here, there has been a lot of conversation about allowing applicants to move forward to stage three that weren't really ready to get to stage three. And so there's been some conversation about how do we build in an additional touch point so that the applicants can provide substantive feedback in response to the evaluator's comments. So built in an an additional time period here, and it's about a 3-week time period. So once they get their initial findings, they're gonna have from July 8th through the 22nd of July to go back and respond to those comments. So it gives them a real opportunity. The window is not a real opportunity. It's not time to go back and revise your application. You're not getting any real feedback. You're just getting a check the box at that point. This is substantive feedback from the evaluators to say, go back and look at these indicators under this section and help us understand what you're trying to say. So it's much deeper opportunity for them. And Candace, I hear you making some comments over there. That was one of the things that Candace had really asked about early on when she first got to the board. And it makes sense for them to have another opportunity to provide some information to the evaluators. So that's where you'll see the biggest change. The next change that's in here was made a year ago, and that was the invitation to the capacity interview. So once I get through stage 2 and I've had these opportunities to respond, then the evaluators will look at them and say, okay, now we're going to get to go to stage 3 or we're not. And when we get into stage 3, then we're going to decide whether or not you have met the criteria and deserve to have an invitation to the capacity interview. So again, that was made last year, but part of stage 3. And then we bumped out the timeline. So typically we've been approving all of our applicants, taking action on them in September. And we bumped it out to October. So that gives us, and we're still in the 180-day timeline. There's 180 days built into the law that says once you release, you have 180 days to complete that application cycle for your applicants. And so we're well within that time period. So that is the biggest change and one I really wanted to point out to you guys. So I feel like it's a good change. I think it's something I really wanted to get in. We tried last year, we just didn't have, time was never our friend, and it was not our friend last year to get it in. So I'm excited that it's in there, and I'm hopeful that this will work really well for our applicants. And combined with what Embark is doing and what we're doing, we really ought to see over time more applicants who are really qualified and ready to bring to life their vision for a school. The only thing that will hinder that a bit this year in terms of numbers is the number of DNF districts. So we only have 12 DNF districts in the state this year, and only 6 of those districts will applicant teams be eligible to apply in.
Any questions about that or further discussion?
I don't think we had a motion in a second already.
I thought we would. Remarks, I don't know.
Absolutely.
Oh, okay. I will do it again. Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to approve beginning the APA process to establish this board policy on timeline.
I so move Candace Bergen.
Okay, thanks. And is there a second?
I second you.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, now we're going to move on to item D, which is to consider approval beginning the APA process to establish board policy, Title 10, Part 402, NCSAB Board Policies, Chapter 4, Rule 4.1, records received by board. So is there anything?
I'm just to defer to Amy on this one in particular. She created this, it's a really well done policy.
Right.
Thank you. It's an item, we receive a lot of documents from the schools and from third parties. And so we don't want to be in the situation where we have to decide whether that is a public record or whether it needs to be sent as a third party record for them to be able to get a court order to get, to, I guess, avoid the public record, having it be a public record. Anyway, so we don't want to have to do that. We want that to be on the person who is sending us a record. So we wrote this policy that basically says that if you send us a public record, you need to tell us whether you want it to be considered for whether you want all or part of it to be considered as a third-party document that needs to be sent back to you when we do a public records request for it. So we would still follow the law under that. We would still say you know, this is a third-party record that possibly has, trade secrets or whatever in it. But it would be them who decides that, not us. So if we have documents where this is required, then we would still follow the law and send it out for the, 21 days. They have that opportunity to get a protective order. It would just not be our decision.
All right, is there a motion? I'll entertain a motion to approve beginning the 8-K process to establish this board policy.
Motion to approve Kimberly Remack.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second versus Science.
All right, any discussion? All right, hearing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. All right, now move on to item E is to consider approval for non-substantive changes to reorganize MCSAB's administrative code. Is there anything we need to know about this?
Y'all heard a lot from me today. Okay, so, y'all know the administrative code at Wilton was my life for quite some time. So I proposed to Dr. K that we kind of rearrange what we have. So the document you have there, it shows you at the beginning what's currently on the administrative code. And it's kind of just been whenever somebody files something, they just do the next part, which is fine. I mean, it gets the job done, right? But what's below that is what we came up with to kind of give it a little more organization. So the parts 400 through 409 will be like board policies, things like our bylaws, which are required, the rules about declaratory opinions and oral proceedings and things like that, and then eventually a personnel policy. And then the 410s will be more like policy-related things for the schools. So the organizational performance, financial performance, academic performance, the site visit policy, things like that. And then the 420s, which I'll have already seen a couple of today, will be like for the applications for things for the schools to do stuff. Apply for new schools, merge schools, expand schools. So that kind of gives us a little more organization. Now, in voting for this, you are not voting to make any substantive changes to rules. Any substantive change that will be made, any rule that has any substance to it, will come before you and you will vote for it. What you're voting for now is just for us to do the little behind the scenes stuff. We've got to move 402 to 420. We've got to take this part out of 403 and put it down here in 422, that kind of thing.
All right, thank you. I'll entertain a motion to the reorganization of the board's administrative code.
So moved, Kimberly Remack.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second versus Science.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, item F is to consider approval to release the RFP legislative annual report.
I can't believe it's time already. This is just an annual release of an RFP. We contract out someone to do our annual report for the legislature. That does our analysis of our schools. It determines what kind of need we have out there based on enrollment and other things that have gone out and shown the community. So that's an annual statistical analysis of performance and a report to the legislature.
Okay. Thank you. I'll entertain a motion to release the RFP for the annual report.
I so move, Candace Robbins.
Thank you. For a second?
Second.
Jennifer with you. Second. Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. All right. I think we have a consideration for executive session. Is there a motion that the board consider making a closed determination of the need to go into executive session?
I move that the board go into closed session for the determination of the need to go into executive session.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second, Candace Robbins.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. And now we'll go to the boardroom and then we'll vote on next. Right, okay.
All right, so we're clearing the boardroom for executive session.